Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We appreciate you joining in. Hope you're off to a great day. You had a nice Memorial Day weekend, and here we are. And man, it's already, what is today? I think it's Thursday. So we've got some great information to share with you today, and we do appreciate your time as always. Love to know where you're tuning in from. And it's not just about me today, which my ego is suffering a little bit. It's not just about my puppet in the background, still sleeping off a big night. Hello, Faith from Boynton Beach. It's not just about my bobblehead. Bonjour from Montreal. Marc Voyages, welcome. I'm going to bring in some special guests. So along with me today, and Alan from Mississauga, Ontario, we got Michelle Sutter, the VP of Sales for Holland America Line, and Steve Smotrese, same role for Seabourn. Welcome, Michelle and Steve.
Hey, John.
Thank you, John. Great to be here.
Well, I always wanted to be on the show. I can't believe we finally made it to the big time.
I know, yes.
Just a note to the producer behind the scenes, can we take Steve off immediately? He's taking some of my attention. He's taking my, thank you. The power of technology.
Oh. I'll just mute myself.
Denise from Florida. You know, this is our first time doing this, as we call ourselves the sisters, right? Because we are sister brands, and so we call ourselves sisters. As part of not only Carnival Corporation, of course, normally we do events, you know, as true sisters across all the major brands in North America, but we're part of the Holland America group, and so we are the true sisters here. So it's nice to have you both with me here today.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right, we got Dana from Lake Nona, Jean, love the pooch picture there, Washington, D.C. Gina graduated from Fairfax High School, and when I say graduated, I'm going to put that in air quotes because I'm not sure I technically graduated, but there was some paperwork and some lawsuits involved. Toby, we've got Anchorage, Alaska. All right. And wow, we're going to talk a little bit about Alaska today. But let's dive right in because we're going to have some meaningful conversation about some important topics. And you have submitted a lot of questions. We're going to get to those. So get ready for that. And if you've got questions as we go in, don't hesitate, don't be shy. We're going to do our very best to spend as much time as possible on those. So we're here to talk about risk acceptance requirements for your clients. This is a super important topic. And so let us, if we can, dive right in. So we've already covered, let me move my screen here. We've already covered that we are the hosts. My photograph, perhaps not the most recent, but I just want to say, Steve, 9th grade junior prom photo, you look great there. You've never looked better. Well done.
Hey, don't hate, congratulate.
Okay. And Michelle, lovely as always. Look at you next to these two ugly mugs. So thank you, Vera, for your support. Okay, so I just want to say that in Facebook, because we're streaming this to each of our Facebook pages, on the bottom there, we have a live transcript feature available. So for anybody that is deaf or is hard of hearing, you can click on that and follow along. Amazing technology will give the closed captioning for today's event. And as said, like I said, Q&A coming, so please do stick around. All right, we want to share that today we have some revised policies that we're introducing. We've already shared a little bit of this already, but we want to go into some detail and make sure it's clear to you that when we return to cruising, which is coming up very soon, all guests are going to be required to complete and sign some documents prior to getting on board that basically they acknowledge and accept the risk associated with traveling in today's day and age with COVID-19 and the various protocols in place to help mitigate all those risks. We want to make sure it's very clear. And so we've always had a passage contract. I'm not sure anybody's ever read it, but we do have a contract, and it's important that everybody does read not only the passage contract, but the new risk advisory, the risk acceptance, because we just need to make sure that that's done. And there's also going to be a health questionnaire. There's always been a health questionnaire when you get to the terminal, and so that will continue, but it'll be revised a little bit in terms of the updated statements on that. And then we've also got what we call vaccination attestation, which is basically a fancy word for evidence or proof that you've been vaccinated and that you are saying, yes, I've been vaccinated. We're going to cover that. So all that must be done by your clients. And there's an important distinction because it really does need to be done by your clients. So first off, we want to make sure these are signed as soon as possible. So my recommendation, our recommendation, is that they're done right after the booking. Don't waste the time and wait till the very last second like we all like to do. It is required that it's no later than 24 hours prior to sailing, but because of the fact that if you don't accept these, you won't be permitted to sail, I say don't wait till the last second because you don't want to ruin your whole vacation because, oh, I forgot to sign the form, right? Make sure you spend some time ahead of time getting that done. These cannot be accepted by you as their travel advisor. In the past, there was this kind of unwritten rule that we would allow you to sign off on the passage contract on behalf of your guests. And quite frankly, I've spoken to so many of you. I've never heard a single travel advisor say, John, I loved signing my guest passage contract on their behalf. No one says that, because why would you want to get in the middle of that? At the end of the day, each person, each guest who's traveling needs to take ownership of that, read it, and accept it. And so you are no longer going to be able to do that on behalf of your clients. And so I think that's a positive sign, quite frankly, and we just want to formalize it here today. Now, another important element that's often missing when we have these forms signed and we're getting information is that we don't always get your client's email address or their phone number. And that's a big problem when we have to contact them or we have to remind them that, hey, this thing is expiring. I don't think you want to be in the position of, hey, reminding your clients and nagging them, hey, did you accept it? Did you accept it? So we really want to get your help in inputting your client's email and their phone number into their booking so that we can make sure that the form has been filled out and call them if we have to, so that you don't have to. And we're going to talk a little bit later about, well, what does that mean in terms of, are you going to steal my client? Are you going to market to them? We're going to cover that, but just know we're doing this for the right reason so that we can connect with them and make sure that the forms are filled out so that they don't miss their sailing, most importantly. So these requirements, the risk acceptance requirements launch dates, we're going to share with you in terms of when they're coming up. So Princess is actually live today. Seabourn is coming up, as well as Holland America. June 14th for Holland America, June 15th for Seabourn. So it's right around the corner. And this is why we wanted to have this webinar now, so we could explain it to you, and then, of course, answer any questions that you have. So how do you get this through the process? Like, where do clients go in? So at Holland America line, it's pretty simple. You go into hollandamerica.com and it's just part of the online guest check-in, right, Michelle? It's all there and easy peasy. They read it and can accept it. No major change to where they would go for that.
Absolutely.
Seabourn, same thing. Go into seabourn.com, go through the online guest registration. It's what you're doing anyway pre-cruise to get ready to sail. And it's pretty simple, right, Steve?
That's right. You got it, John.
Okay. So that's pretty straightforward. Now, Princess is a little different because of our Medallion class and the Medallion class app. We're actually doing everything through the app. And so where normally you might go into Cruise Personalizer and input some information, it's all done through the app right now. We're going to talk about, well, what does that mean for my clients who may not have an app or may not have a smartphone? But the documents, you can view them on princess.com, so you can go and see what those documents are. But in order to accept them, you have to go into the Medallion class app. Okay, so there we have that. And now somebody is asking, I just want to say, so Jill, can the husband accept for the wife and vice versa? Yeah, so when you're in the app, you're going to accept, you're going to go in. So let's say I'm accepting for my family, right? And I would go in and I would be in the app and I would say, log in for me, I accept. Obviously, I have 2 kids, so I can accept on their behalf because they're minors. And then my wife is there as well. I can go ahead and accept for her. You don't have to, like, we're not going to be filming you recording, that you're doing it, and we verify that it's your fingerprint on there, nothing like that. So yes, you can technically do that once you've logged in to the app. But now, one of the questions we're getting, which is a good question, is, are these policies, are these risk advisories temporary, or is it just part of the conditional sale order? I don't know the answer to that, quite frankly, in terms of how long this is going to last. I expect it will last for some time, even if the conditional sale order expires, just because we want to be very clear that, we're living in a world where COVID is still going to be around for a while. And so we want to make sure that everybody is very clear on any risks, okay? Okay, so that is hopefully pretty clear there. And then the vaccination attestation, which I talked about earlier, we're still working out the details on this. And again, these are for cruises that are fully vaccinated cruises. So a good example is the cruising in Alaska that both Princess and Holland America are going to be doing. So you're going to need to bring some sort of proof to the terminal with you that you have been vaccinated. And I don't know the exact answer, but my expectation is it's going to be the original vaccination card that you have. You might want to get that laminated. And then there's also going to be the attestation which you're accepting as part of the risk advisory, or in addition to the risk advisory, I should say, basically says it's a legal document that says the individual confirms, yes, I've been vaccinated, and I will have that card to bring with me. So that's really what that is all about. And so again, same for Holland, this we just talked about, Holland American Seabourn. It's online through the guest check-in. At Princess, it's the Medallion class app. We are still working out the details and the wording on that. We don't have those attestations ready for public review right now, but just want to give you all a heads up that this is coming. Okay. that is the introduction. That's the detail. Let's get into some questions that have been submitted ahead of time. So let's throw those up there, please, and we'll go through the questions. First question, do guests have to be fully vaccinated to cruise? So the answer is yes for the Alaska sailings that Princess and Holland America have announced. And that was done in agreement with the state of Washington for Seattle and in Alaska in order to make this work. And so much of what we're doing is going to be specific to each of the places that we visit. And so while yes for Alaska, if and when we're announcing other ports of return, I would just say, watch this space, because we will announce the requirements for sailing out of different locations, whether it be California or Florida or elsewhere. And so that is a simple answer to that question. Now, Steve, obviously, and Michelle, you've got cruises to other places outside of America, so Greece, Barbados, etc., and those have not been announced as fully vaccinated. So the answer there is no.
Well, actually, for Greece and Barbados, we are requiring guests to be fully vaccinated.
I learned something here today. Good.
There we go.
Yeah, and the same goes for Holland America Line. So for our guests who are booked on our return to service sailings to Alaska and to the Greece and Mediterranean for this summer of 21, we are requiring our guests to be fully vaccinated.
Well, that's a consistent answer then, so that makes it easy. So there you have it. Okay, next question. Are passengers going to be required to have any sort of COVID-19 insurance before boarding? So there isn't a specific COVID-19 insurance that we're going to require, but I will say this. Anybody traveling in today's day and age without some sort of travel protection, I think you need to rethink your plans. We've always recommended having travel insurance because you just don't want to, and I've seen so many of these stories of somebody had to be medevaced and it was $75,000 and you don't want to be on the hook for that. And so get yourself some travel protection. Each of our brands offers a great travel protection program that has recently been enhanced. And so I would just say, get that travel protection and make sure you're covered. Are the new protocols that are being introduced permanent or temporary until such time as the CDC decided to lift them? So I think I covered that already, that we believe that these are going to be with us for a little while. And so we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that. And obviously we'll let you know when that changes. Okay, being required to provide my client emails. Will my clients ever be called or emailed offering them promos or soliciting future business? So at the end of the day, I like to think two things I say to this. We're all in this together, and the marketing machine that each of our brands has serves a purpose to drive awareness, get people excited, and have them cruise again. We are not out there to poach your clients. Our goal is not to steal them and move them to direct. Our goal is to inspire them because, research shows that in order for somebody to make any major purchase like this for a travel, it takes 6 to 7 times of connection before they make that decision. Very rarely do you get one email and go book a cruise. I mean, we wish that was the case, but doesn't always happen. And so it takes time. It's a lengthy process of engaging and staying connected with them as a brand. But why we're asking for these emails and phone numbers now is not so that we can go market to them and steal them direct. Our goal is to make sure that we can contact them and make sure that they have everything sorted out before they get on board so that their cruise doesn't get canceled. And we want you in the business of selling additional cruises with Princess, Holland America Line, and Seabourn. Let's not forget Cunard. We want you in that business and focus on selling and getting new bookings. We don't want you in the business of having to nag your clients to fill out the risk advisory. And that's why we're doing this. Are children going to be able to sail? So I'll answer this first for Princess. So this is a good question. Specific to Alaska, which is the only destination we've announced that we are absolutely confirmed to sail, starting July 25th, I will be on board Majestic Princess. Come find me and I will not buy you a drink. But we are, of course, kids that are 12 and up. So my kids are 14 and they have started the vaccination process. Kids that are 12 and up need to be vaccinated. Everybody on board has to be vaccinated. For kids that are 11 and under, we are allowed under the CDC guidelines to have a certain percentage of guests that are not actually vaccinated. It applies to kids, it applies to medical exemptions, and there are religious issues as well that could be at play that we are, of course, in full compliance with those rules. But specific to kids, we are going to allow a certain number. And so you will see, and we have to manage this number very carefully, and you will see if you go in to book a cruise and you input the kids' names, their dates of birth, that you will see whether there's availability or not. And you might see not available, but there might be a wait list option So if you want to make that booking under the wait list, we'll let you know if it clears, but we have to very tightly manage this under the CDC limits for what a fully vaccinated cruise means in terms of the numbers. If you look at the CDC website and you go through those details, it's 95% of guests have to be vaccinated. So, but we're not going to push to the limits in terms of getting that full 5% of people that are kids that aren't vaccinated. We're going to be very conservative on those numbers because we obviously never want to mess with the, violating the guidelines we've agreed to. And so just want to be clear that yes, we will allow it, but only up to a certain number. And I got a ping of a question just about the whole marketing thing, is that just to be clear on, I'm going to go back to that last question about why we're gathering the emails. Specific to this purpose, we are gathering this information to reach out to them. If we are, let's say we already had your client's email that your client put it in there and you had no problem with it. We regularly market to all of our guests. They're our guests, they're your clients. We're in this together. And so that will continue. And our data shows that the reach out that we do is very effective, and the response rate of us marketing, sending brochures in better times when we actually had printed brochures, those things help drive awareness and bookings. And so that is not necessarily anything new. So I just wanted to cover that because I got a question on the side there about that. Okay.
So John, why don't we address the children for Holland America Line?
Yeah, please.
Reborn.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to make one additional point as well to the question you have that's listed here. Is to your point, John, is the requirement of the client emails and contact numbers for this purpose is exclusively for us to be able to follow up with them for the risk advisory. So some of the questions we're seeing, I think there's some confusion in terms of why we're collecting that. Like, to your point, if we have their data for other reasons, then yes, we are marketing to them to provide them with those materials. But for this purpose, the contact details are exclusively for following up on the risk assessment.
Yeah.
As it relates to children with Holland America Line, they do have to be fully vaccinated. So that will be 12 years and up at this point, unless the vaccine protocols change over the next few months. So Holland America Line will be welcoming guests who are fully vaccinated. And currently, as we all know, the minimum age of vaccination protocol is 12 years. So with Holland America Line, we are sticking to that.
Okay.
And for Seabourn, again, we're going to be in the Caribbean, out of Barbados, and in the Greek Isles this summer. And all guests on board will be required to be vaccinated. So regardless of the age, we are having a 100% vaccinated both crew and guests on board. Great.
Okay, and I just want to say I made a mistake, and this is where we learn on the fly. This is an education as we're talking here. Do not get your vaccination cards laminated, because apparently if boosters and whatnot are added later, they're going to go to the same card, and it'll be kind of hard to do if it's laminated. So thank you for raising that question. Do not laminate your card. I'm not sure how long the card will last if it's not laminated, but that's a problem we'll have to deal with separately. Okay, next question. Can children 11 and under go on shore excursions, roam around the town, go into pools, or do parents bring, I love this question, that's why we put it verbatim, or do parents bring lots of rope to tie them to the bed when they leave the cabin?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I recommend that anyway.
Or your husband too.
Wait a minute. So for Princess, for the kids 11 and under, we are still finalizing all the details based on the expected revised and expanded technical instructions from the CDC in terms of what does this mean for kids, what can they do on board. And so let's just keep an eye on this, and we'll communicate it as soon as we know. But we expect that they'll be able to enjoy the trip. We're not sure about masks. We're not sure about going ashore, independent of shore X, et cetera, but we expect that they will not have to be tied to the beds. Okay. For couples that do not have a smartphone or tablet, are they able to complete required information on their computers? So for Holland America Line and Seabourn, yes, not a problem. For Princess, we are migrating to the Medallion class app, and that's where we require them to use the app. Now, some people don't have smartphones. Some people aren't savvy enough. And I would just say that we are very hopeful. I mean, and our research has shown the vast majority of clients have smartphones. And so we don't expect this to be a major problem. But we know there's going to be some that are lucky enough not to have a smartphone. They are disconnected from the world as we know it, the technological world as we know it today. But I would just say, they may have a grandson or a kid or somebody that knows it and can help them and can just get that in there. And unfortunately, that is what it's going to take to get it done. I wish I had an easier answer for you, but we're really hoping people will utilize the app or have a friend log in on their behalf and help them, and maybe a neighbor who is kind enough to download the app for them. It shouldn't be, hopefully, too much problem. Okay. What if my clients don't have an email address computer? Wow, you are really living off the grid. How would they be able to agree to these terms if I can't do it for them, or how will they be able to do it? And so ultimately, there's always, I guess, exceptions to every rule, but we really are trying to avoid this, but we know in some cases they may not have it. It might require that you call us up and we'll walk you through the details and try and figure out a solution. And in some cases, once you get to the terminal, you may have to do some of the paperwork, but we're really hoping that this can be resolved in advance as much as possible. Okay. What if my guest has their first vaccination shot but won't have the second before the cruise date? Michelle, I'll let you handle this one.
Yeah, great question. So we will be requiring our guests to be fully vaccinated. So if it is a vaccine that requires 2 doses, they will have to have completed the second dose 14 days prior to sailing to be able to sail on board Holland America Line.
Great, thank you.
And John and Steve, how's that for you too?
Exactly the same for Seabourn.
Yeah, it is a requirement. So get your vaccination soon, get in the process, and make sure you have that 2-week window before you sail. Do you require a negative COVID-19 test prior to client sailing? So I can say for Princess, for the vaccinated cruises in Alaska, that at the moment we do not have any sort of pre-testing requirements for those who are vaccinated. I want to cover, somebody asked a question, Joy asked a question, just to make sure that Princess is the brand compared to the Holland America Seabourn, who are requiring that you're 12 and up basically, because you have to have the vaccine. There's no exceptions for kids. Princess has made the decision to allow the limited number on board of kids who are not able to be vaccinated. And as Michelle said, that rule may change based on the new testing that's going on, and we may have approval later in the year, hopefully, for younger kids if we want to get them vaccinated. But right now, Princess is allowing the limited number per CDC guidelines to travel without vaccines. Now, the protocols for them in terms of, will they have to wear masks and how do we do testing for them, is still forthcoming. So in terms of requiring this test for people that are vaccinated, we at the moment do not expect that there will be any pre-cruise testing, but we don't know for sure because we're waiting again on those updated technical instructions. I expect that the kids will, or anybody that has any sort of medical or religious exemption, will have to be tested. Michelle or Steve, any context to add here?
It's the same for us. So we won't be requiring the negative test in advance because everyone who will be sailing with us will be fully vaccinated. But to your point, for exemptions, I would imagine that the guidance will require testing prior to the sailing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add for Seabourn, I think it's really important that you are constantly checking depending on the destination you're going to, where you're traveling to, you might want to check their travel website, because that is constantly evolving. Things could change there. So for right now, if you're traveling to Barbados, they will tell you have to have a negative PCR test in order to fly in. I think it's the same for Athens as well, into Greece. But again, it's always changing. It could be no tomorrow. So it's important to just be always monitoring the situation. Yeah,
it's a very good point. The airlines may have requirements based on where you're flying in, the individual port, because you may have a pre-hotel stay, which may require a test. So yeah, you really got to stay atop that. Just because we may not have a requirement, where you're going might. Okay. Jamie's asking, what about people who cannot get the vaccine for medical reasons? It sounded like they could sail with Princess. What about Holland and Seabourn?
Great question, Jamie. So just as Princess has noted, there are exemptions for religious or medical reasons. And to figure out how that works, we really encourage you to call our contact center, our call center, and they'll provide you with details on how to proceed with that. So we are definitely making exemptions for medical or religious reasons.
Yeah.
So I would say it's more or less the same, that you should contact Seabourn customer service. However, again, we are following the guidance from the governments of where we are sailing. So if Barbados and Greece are telling us that regardless that they have to be fully vaccinated, then that will be the requirement. And I think that's the case at this time.
Right. Okay. What happens if someone comes back after a short excursion and has COVID-19? What about the protocol of other passengers? So I think this is an important question of, in the days of COVID, we have to have very strict rules and procedures and protocols on board for what happens if somebody shows symptoms or tests positive. And how do we then isolate them? How do we do contact tracing? How do we work with the local ports that we're going to in case we need to disembark a guest for local medical care? And so all those details are being worked out, and there'll be very clear guidance on that. And we haven't published them yet because, again, we're waiting for the final version of these technical instructions from the CDC. But just know that, our expectation is that there is going to be, we've always had very rigorous health standards and I would say the best health and safety protocols of any vacation option you could have. But it's really going to be about how do we communicate this to the guests on board? How do people know in advance what's going to happen? Should they, come down with COVID and be exposed to it and show symptoms, et cetera, or be tested positive, whatever it might be. And then how do we make sure everybody else is safe and that the voyage just doesn't come to an end? Like that, okay, one person test doesn't mean the voyage ends. There's limits in place that make sure that we're still going to be operating as safely as possible and that life goes on. And thanks to the power of contact tracing and, how we're going to manage this with our health and safety teams on board, we expect that we'll be able to manage it very carefully and safely for everybody, for guests and crew. Okay. How much is the crew tested and percent are vaccinated? So that if you look at the CDC guidelines for a fully vaccinated voyage, 98% of crew need to be vaccinated. All right. And then I'm not sure about the actual, again, I think we're still waiting on this in terms of how, okay, just because you're vaccinated, what are the testing protocols? And I don't know what those are as of today. But I do know that the CDC rule is 98%. We are working for the crew perspective of 100%. Like our goal is not to have any buffer, but it's just per CDC guidelines, 98% is acceptable. If someone can't take the vaccine due to medical reasons, can they sail? So we've covered that already. We each have exemption or exception processes that need to be addressed individually. And so just please call us, each of our contact centers, and we'll make sure it's escalated and our customer relations teams will be involved and work through those with you. What is the refund policy, either for individual guests or those within a group who choose not to be vaccinated? This is a good question. So I think it really depends on whether you're inside final payment, where are you in the booking process? If you haven't made final payment, then it's pretty clear that you'll get your deposit back and, that is your choice, clearly. If there is any situations that occur, and they shouldn't really, because we all know we're publishing these voyages as fully vaccinated, so there really shouldn't be issues, too many of them anyway, inside final payment. But if so, then we have our cruise with confidence policy at Princess. Obviously, Holland and Seabourn have their own policies to give you peace of mind for sailing and making these bookings now that will provide coverage of refunding of any penalty fees in the form of FCCs. And so we'll make sure we work through that. But I would think most people aren't going to be affected by this. What will the protocols be on board for the guests? Will masks be required? What about physical distancing? Yeah, so again, this goes back to those expected CDC guidelines of that we expect any moment now that will define this for the fully vaccinated cruises that we're offering in Alaska and Barbados, Greece, et cetera, for all of our brands. And I just want to throw a question from the chat, if it's okay, that Bruce has asked. Is there a tutorial on how to get the COVID documents done? Would not work on my phone. Yeah, Bruce, this is hot off the press. If you're in the Medallion class app, it is just coming out. And so we're still working through some bugs on that. Thank you for showing that, Joe. Good question, Bruce. So yeah, we're going to be doing some upcoming webinars that will do a deep dive with screenshots and walk you through how to click and do, click this and do this. It'll be pretty simple. I've seen the walkthrough in the draft mode right now, and it's pretty simple. But yeah, we'll make sure we walk that through. Do guests have to take your excursions, or can guests use outside excursions or explore on their own? I believe this is still part of these final guidelines we expect from the CDC, but in Alaska is a good example for fully vaccinated cruises that we are expecting. Feel free. We'd love for you to be part of the Princess amazing shore excursion program. But if you want to just walk around town and do independent tours, then we expect that you'll be able to do that. But again, we're waiting on the final rules to publish those. Any update, Michelle, for Holland America, either in Alaska? Well, not Alaska. I think it's the same rule, but over in Greece.
Yeah, so we expect that our guests will be able to explore Greece on their own, but we are waiting for official word from Greek authorities to give us clarity on what those guidelines will be. But from the talks we've had thus far, we're feeling very optimistic that they'll be able to explore on their own.
Great. Steve, anything for Barbados?
Barbados is really kind of the same as Michelle had mentioned for Greece. So right now we're only offering our shore excursions, which are fantastic, but we anticipate that we're not sailing for another 2 months. A lot can change between now and then. So we do anticipate people having the flexibility to go off on their own or do their own excursions.
Yeah, I want to throw in a question, if we can, from Jill Johns, who asked, "What if we need what if you need a negative test before flying home? Will there be a way to get that on board?" I've had this question before. It's a great question, and I'm just throwing it out there because I'm just willing to admit I don't know the answer. I know obviously our ships will have testing systems on board, and we'll be able to do the test. Whether it's the same test required by the airline or not is a good question. And so I would say, you know, I had not had my home phone plugged in for like 3 months. I plugged it in yesterday.
You have a home phone?
Yeah. Why do I have a home phone? It's so stupid.
That's a good question.
Of course, the one time it rings while we're doing the weather. Anyway, going back to the issue of testing. And so I expect that it's a great question, and we expect many people who are flying home will have that requirement. And whether it's done on the ship, in the terminal, whether the airports do it, you know, I don't know the answer to that, but we will be clearly communicating that as soon as we have guidance. Okay.
I will add real quick, John, on that for Cunard, for Seabourn, we are providing the tests on board for guests flying from Athens. So we have the facilities on board to do that if they're going to be, you know, arriving back into the U.S. within 72 hours. We will provide that for them for free.
Okay, great. Are you limiting guests on board? And so, yeah, we're still working through the protocols and the numbers, and I believe the answer is yes. There will be, especially at the start of the Princess Alaska season, there will be some reduced capacity. And partly is because we just want to make sure we're getting everything right in the new world and making sure our teams on board, you know, aren't just put into a situation where the ship is full. If the CD says, yeah, you can have a full ship, we may still not. I don't think we are going to have a full ship. Because we want to make sure our team has opportunity to, you know the new protocols, get it done right, and then get ready for more and more people as the voyages, you know, kind of evolve. So we're not saying there's not a strict number that we have to abide by, but we are expecting there will be a limitation, especially as we start our return. Okay. Is there any movement on the 7-day CDC limit? Yeah, so this means that as part of the conditional sail order, that any voyage that calls on a U.S. port can be no longer than 7 days between basically until the CSO, as it's called, conditional sail order, expires at the beginning of November. And so as of right now, I know there's talks about whether that could be extended, especially. And I actually often get requests from people saying, hey, I want to do 2 of these Alaska cruises. Good for you. Book them back to back. But right now, that is technically not allowed based on how the CSO is written. And so we are, you know, supporting that rule for now, but it could change. And if it does, we will let you know. And, you know, Michelle, over in Greece, it's a longer itinerary because it doesn't call in a U.S. port, right? So you may want to cover that.
Yes, absolutely. So the beginning of our season is we have 7-day sailings, which can be booked as collector voyages as back to 14 days. And that's absolutely permitted because it's outside of North America.
Great. Right. Oh, so thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. You made my day.
I remember and I think I've brought this up, Michelle. This is not the first time you've heard this bad joke, but the movie Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe out in his shed behind his house with all of his things. Any correlation?
Steve,
thank you, Lori.
Steve, what was your response earlier to John? Don't hate it. What did you say?
Don't hate it, congratulate.
Exactly. That's my response.
Yes. Thank you, Eric. I was going to see Eric. All right.
Yeah.
Yes, and Lori, I do have a home phone for emergency reasons, but it hasn't been plugged in. So if it's an emergency, what am I going to do? I got to plug it in and then charge the battery. It's a mess. I got to figure something out here. Okay. What are any other questions? These are great questions. And this is taking, are you doing test cruises? So Edward, great question. You and your lovely bride there. We are not doing these test cruises because we are operating under the fully vaccinated guidelines per the CDC. And this is allowing us to return much faster to service. And so that's one of the reasons why we're requiring the full vaccination. And, you know, ultimately the demographic of our brands, all three of our brands, we're showing that the vast majority of them have been vaccinated or will be fully vaccinated soon. And so it just kind of fits perfectly within our eagerness to get back to sea, to have you know, support the demographics that we have, that we know they're already vaccinated, and away we go. Thus, we won't have test cruises. Marlene, will cruise tours be available for this summer's Princess Alaska tours? So no, because we are doing the Inside Passage, and Holland America is the same situation. We're doing round trip out of Seattle, and in order to do the cruise tours, you got to connect up to Whittier to get up north towards Anchorage to connect to the interior and go to our amazing lodges that both Princess and Holland America operate. And so we are not able to support that this season, but 2022 is selling pretty well. I will say this: do not wait to book your 2022 cruise tour for either brand, because we have some great options. Oh my God, are you kidding? What is going on? All right, and that worked. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Okay, next up. How will the dining play out on Princess? Will the Medallion a regular early and late season? So I'm going to cover that in some slides coming up. Although I got to be very honest, we are 36 minutes. Oh my goodness.
Pull it up.
Oh my God. Awesome.
So I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, please. I was just saying, we're 37 minutes now into this presentation. And we have a lot of slides to get through, and I don't think we're going to have enough time. So we need to make a game time decision here, Michelle and Steve, how on earth we're going to manage all the information we were planning to present. What do you think?
So I can run through with like high level, like 3-4 minute update. So if you want to,
I think we can do that. I think we just all run through them really quick, John, and then, you know, if everybody wants further information, they can go to our, you know, our respective websites and whatnot and get additional information.
Okay.
And that might give you time to answer your phone.
Oh my God, seriously. I apologize, everybody. Yes, and it is the extended car warranty calling. Okay, so with that, Michelle, take it away.
Thank you, John, and thank you everyone for joining us today. First and foremost, I want to thank you for all of your support. I know the last 14 months have been incredibly challenging and difficult, and you have all been so supportive of all of us, and we know collectively that we would not be here without you. So thank you for your support. Today we want to talk about the return to service. As we've been discussing, Holland America Line will be sailing in Alaska and Europe this summer, starting in July with the new Amsterdam. If you want to go to the next slide, please. We have, starting July 24th, 10 sailings, Alaskan Explorer sailings, round trip Seattle on the new Amsterdam. Next slide. And you'll see here a quick overview of the itinerary. These start on July 24th, last sailing September 25th. Glacier Bay National Park and Reserve, super important to be part of the itinerary. We're really excited. And as you can see, we've been able to get conditional permission to not sail to Canada for Alaska. So we will be sailing to the ports that you see listed here. Next slide. And we also will have the Rotterdam that will be starting with our Greek Isle cruises on August the 15th. So our first few sailings, you can see here and on the next two slides, are 7-day sailings. And if you proceed to the next slide, you'll see the round trip Athens. And we will have different ports of call, including highlights like Mykonos and Santorini, Rhodes, Haifa. On the next slide here, you'll see we will then reposition to Venice. And from there, you'll see that on the next slide that we have the ability, as I was mentioning earlier, to book these as collector voyages, but we'll also then have longer cruises that will be 12-night cruises between Athens and Venice and over to Barcelona until we reposition at the end of October back to Fort Lauderdale. Next slide. And as I mentioned, collector's voyage, that's a 10% discount for the guests. And of course, more commission for yourselves. Next slide. Quick note is we have a 60-day final payment window that's been changed from 90 days. If you proceed to the next slide, you'll see we also have a worry-free promise. This has not even been posted yet, so if you do not see this online, that's because we literally got a game time decision made before this webinar to extend the booking window to September 30th. So any bookings made that depart by December 31st will qualify for a worry-free promise, which means you can cancel up to 30 days prior to the cruise departure and receive a future cruise credit. And in addition to that, we also have new COVID-19 protection program. So if your client tests positive before the cruise or anyone from their booking party tests positive, you will be, or the guest will be protected. We also will have onboard protection. So all of the medical costs on board will be covered by us if your guest should need COVID-19 attention. So that's been updated again for anything booked by September 30th, sailing before December 31st of this year. Next slide. Wanted to quickly point out, and you can advance these slides as I'm speaking, John, is that the onboard programming and dining facilities and options will continue to be available for these cruises. We will not be making any adjustments to the programming. It'll be more about perhaps capacity control, but we'll have the full lineup of entertainment and dining. And of course, the Navigator app will be there as well, and you can proceed on these as well. Have It All is our new premium package all-inclusive program. On the next slide, you'll see, depending on the length of the cruise, it ranges anywhere from 1 to 3 shore excursions, the signature beverage package, 1 to 3 nights in the specialty dining, restaurant, and the Wi-Fi package. So this can be booked on any cruise except for cruises that are 5 days or less. You can advance to the next slide, or the Grand World Voyage cruise. This is great because now you will have the ability to get paid commission on this full package versus traditionally the guest would have been booking these amenities or these benefits separately. So there will still always be cruise only pricing, but you will also have the ability to offer Have It All as well. Next slide, please. Quick plug, every Monday on the Holland America Line Partnerships Facebook page, I have Mondays with Michelle, which are quick updates, Facebook Live interviews, and I would love to have you join us. Next slide. We also have our Travel Advisor Book Club. This is the MS Mastermind, so please find us on Facebook under MS Masterminds. We are now finishing up our 4th book, and we would love to have new members, so please find me on Facebook. And last but not least, here on the last slide, this is a thank you from the Holland America Line sales team for all your support. We know it's been a challenging year, and we are so grateful for all that you do. Thank you. Did I get through that in 3 minutes? Thank you, Alice. I tried to speed through that. Any other questions for me? So passengers only require full vaccinations to sail on our return to service sailings that I covered today. So those are our Alaska sailings this summer on the New Amsterdam, and our Greek Isle and Mediterranean cruises on the Rotterdam. Will the inaugural sailings for the Rotterdam be sailing in August, on August 8th and August 22nd? At this time, we don't know, Lou. We are still working through what will be permitted to sail and not sail. So as soon as we have an update on that, we will be absolutely sure to advise you. So thank you for those bookings, and we'll be excited to welcome your guests. I think I answered this. Okay. So yes, guests can opt out from Have It All perks. So the Have It All is a premium package pricing promotion that's always available on sailings that are 5 nights or longer, or sorry, over 5 nights, and with the exception of the Grand Worlds or the Grands, but they do not have to book this. They can still book cruise only pricing without Have It All. Okay, it looks like, oh, is the Have It All flyer online? Yes, great question, Marianne. That can be accessed on gohal.com, or if you have an inside sales representative or business development manager or senior national accounts manager, they can also provide it to you as well. Thank you, Suzette, for joining, and I will pass it off to my esteemed colleague, Steve Smotries.
Great, thanks, Michelle. And we're going to go really quickly through all of this in the Seabourn update. As I mentioned, we are back this summer sailing out of the Caribbean. So we're going to start and look at that itinerary really quick. We are sailing round trip out of Barbados. So we've got two different itineraries. We've got our yacht Odyssey. We've got 5 ports in 7 days. And then we've got our yacht Gems, and also 5 ports in 7 days. And you can combine these into a 14-day sailing. And the only port that you repeat is St. Kitts, where we actually do our Marina Days. Let's go to the next slide, John. And our Marina Day is very, very popular. This is where we find a beautiful location. We open up the back of the ship. We take out all the water toys. And we've got this great little marina out there where guests can do things like water skiing and paddle boats and kayaking. So much to do, and it's very, very popular. And we've got our caviar in the surf, and our beach barbecue that we do. So that'll be great to have that included. So let's go next slide. We are also in Greece, as mentioned, with Seabourn Ovation, sailing round trip out of Athens. And we've got 2 itineraries there as well. We've got the Heart of the Aegean, 5 ports in 7 days. And next slide, please. And we've got our Gems of the Greek Isles, also 5 ports in 7 days. And we will also be doing our Marina Days on both of these itineraries. And like the Caribbean, you can combine these into a 14-day collector. And really great itinerary there. The only port that's repeated there is Rhodes. We got a special offer there. You can go to Go Seabourn and take a look at that. Some great shipboard credit and upgrades, and that is good until June 30th. So we encourage guests to act fast, and fares will be rising on July 1st. And for those wanting to go to Greece, we've got great air add-ons, $6.99 economy and $29.99 business class. And I think you'll admit those are fantastic rates. Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit here and talk about our great new expedition ship, the Seabourn Venture, coming scheduled to arrive this December. And this is going to be a game changer in the expedition space. Let's go to the next slide. Let's go one more to give a few details. So these ships have 132 suites. These are specifically made, purpose-built for great expedition experiences up in places like the Arctic and Antarctica. It's equipped with all kinds of different expedition experiences. Let's go to the next slide. I just want to show you some of the renderings to get you a feel. Even though it's an expedition experience, it's still going to be an ultra luxury experience. You can kind of liken it to what a luxury ski lodge would look like, but it still has a lot of different amenities, a lot of features, a lot of outdoor space, so people could be outside and really enjoying all that nature. A world-class spa. Think about being in the sauna and having that view. It's incredible. And these suites have floor-to-ceiling windows. This is a loft. Can you imagine that, having that? What a view. And every expedition experience, it's only as good as its expedition team. We have a world-class expedition team, very experienced. They are going to give our guests amazing experiences and amazing excursions throughout this, including a very special experience, like we have 2 6-guest submarines. So not only will you get amazing adventures above the water, but below the water. So if you can imagine going 1,000 feet under the water in Antarctica, that is the ultimate bragging experience. Next. For Venture's inaugural season, this just gives you a quick snapshot. She's going to start up in Norway, then she's going to go over to Greenland and the Arctic, work our way down to the Amazon, and then finish up in Antarctica. And then she will have a sister ship arriving about a year after. So this is, again, it's going to be an unbelievable expedition experience. So for more details, please go to goseabourn.com. Where we have, for our Seabourn Academy, we have a special course so you can become an expert in our expedition experience. And if you complete it by June 15th, you'll be automatically entered into a contest to win a 7-night cruise for 2 on Seabourn. And a few more things I just wanted to go over really quick. We've extended our Book with Confidence program as well for anything booked by September 30th, 2021. And this allows guests to be able to cancel for any reason up to 30 days before departure and receive a future cruise credit. And also, they may cancel up until sailing date, if they test positive for COVID-19, and they will also get a future cruise credit. We also have our 10% early bonus savings. This has been very, very popular. If they book by June 30th, they will receive a 10% discount off their booking. And you think about the price points with Seabourn, 10% is significant. And a little insider information here, I understand that this will be extended after June 30th, but we want people to get to book as soon as possible. And the great thing for advisors is they get this if they pay in full. And once they pay in full, you get your commission paid at that time. So it's very important. And our Stay Connected, we are including Wi-Fi in all our experiences going forward, starting with our summer season, but then it's going to be rolled into our all-inclusiveness that we have on all of our sailings. So let's go to questions. And I think we addressed some of these, but will Barbados waive the negative PCR test for vaccinated guests? At this time, they have not. This time, they are requiring it. So in addition to be fully vaccinated and that being a requirement, Barbados is requiring a negative PCR test. Okay, next question. How will you assist with the required COVID test prior to disembarkation? I think we talked about this a little bit as well, especially in Greece. We are providing that on board for guests who are returning home within 72 hours. So we are providing that free of charge. We're trying to make it very, very simple for the guests. So let's move on to the next question. Can guests take a third-party excursion? So I think we addressed this as well earlier. This is, again, ever evolving. Right now, we fully expect that guests will be able to do that. At this time, if we were sailing tomorrow, it would only be our shore excursions. But we encourage you to monitor the region that you're going to. Their travel sites are constantly being updated with that information and that guidance. Next question. Do we have any more questions? I guess not. Well, John, I guess I'm going to turn it over to you for a Princess update.
Okay, thank you, Steve, and appreciate everybody staying late. We expected this not to run as long, but it has, and so we got some great information here. I'll run through very quickly some slides. Yes, we're back in Alaska. You know that. Number one cruise line, thank you so much. We are doing these insight. We can take the question off there, Joe. Thank you. Doing the round trip out of Seattle inside passage, and adding in Glacier Bay, which is truly a highlight. And so we have 10 sailings to choose from, July 25th through September 26th. Those early sailings are, I believe, sold out or close to them. So, but if you see a wait list option, take it, because we may be clearing more space. So maybe it can happen for you. Vaccination requirement, we have covered that. So I'm going to move through this. Book with confidence. This has been updated as well. Just like both Michelle and Steve explained, that we have updated it to all bookings made now through September 30th for sailing by the end of this year, that you have that comfort and knowing that up to 30 days prior. But what happens if something within the 30-day window happens? We are providing this COVID-19 protection where for anybody in that stateroom who is affected, we will make sure you get your money back in the form of an FCC and refund all the other purchases. So we're going to make sure you are taken care of. We have announced just this morning, so this is hot off the press, that Princess has had to cancel our Canada-New England sailings in 2021, our 7-day cruising from August 28th to October 30th. We have 10 departures that we're canceling, as well as there was one 14-day Caribbean Islander sailing out of New York that we've had to cancel. We are allowing guests who are affected by this to move into 2022. We are allowing them to transfer. There's a grid of equivalent voyages. It's not always a direct match, but most of them are, where you get price protection, you get moved into 2022, make it easy. You have until July 15th to make your choice, whether you want to transfer into 2022, whether you want to have the FCC option with a 10% bonus, or whether you want your money refunded. So hopefully you can work with your clients to either have them transfer the booking into next year, or at least get that FCC so they can book something soon. All right, so that is hot off the press. We have communicated, emails are going out, and we're making sure as we do that you as the travel advisor have a 24-hour heads up notice that your clients won't be told until tomorrow about this. So you have time to get ready or to reach out to them and say, hey, this is happening. But at least you're warned in case they do call you tomorrow. Medallion class, you know all about it. It's great. All the ships, when we come back on service, will have it. Dine My Way. We had talked about this in our Connect with Princess conference. It is really a game changer to allow ultimate flexibility, and really we think it's going to transform the dining experience, because the technology allows us to really free up all the inventory rather than just having basically first and second sittings. And so I just want to say that this you can be as detailed as you want and plan as much as you want. Once you've made your plans, you can change them as often as you want, and that's the beauty of it. Or you can make as little reservations in advance as you want. It's really up to you. So don't be scared by this. Think, oh, I don't know when I want to eat dinner. That's fine. Don't make a reservation. Wait till you get on board. But if you do have an idea of how you want to plan your trip, you can do that, and it really gives that flexibility. So you download the Medallion class app, you access Dine My Way, and you make and manage your reservations. It's really that simple. Now, we are allowing access to the dining reservation system for guests that have paid in full, or guests that are elite or platinum members as part of our loyalty program, as well as those in the suites and our club class. So that in normal times, those are the only groups that will be able to manage their bookings using Dine My Way. So let's say you've booked into 2022, in a couple months' time, and you had not paid in full. And if you're not an elite or platinum guest, or you're not in a suite or a club class, you won't be able to manage your dining until you pay in full. However, as part of this transition, we are allowing anybody that has an active booking as of June 7th, because this program is officially launching next week. I'm here to give you the heads up on it and make sure it's clear to you, because the whole dining question as part of the booking flow is going away. That doesn't exist anymore. And so next week, starting June 7th, anybody that has an active booking will be allowed to go in ahead and go into Dine My Way and make their reservations. But once we then, so let's say you make a booking on June 8th, they then fall into the category of you have to have one of those exceptions listed. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you all. Princess Plus, you know all about it. You get the premier beverage package with the bar service charges included. You get unlimited Wi-Fi, you get the daily crew incentive. All of that normally costs $95 per person per day, but with Princess Plus, only $40 per day, which is a pretty good deal, almost a 60% savings. And I like to say it's great because it's not only more value to your clients, I tell my friends and family to book it because it is such a great value, but it's all part of the price, which means more commission for you. So Indulge at Sea is the promotion we have in market right now. It expires at the end of this month. To take advantage of it, up to $200 in onboard spending money. And with that, I want to say on behalf of all the crew members on board, that are so excited to go back on board at Princess, as well as, of course, Holland America Line and Seabourn. We're all so grateful that we can return to sea and welcome you back on board. Now, with that, let's answer some questions. I believe there might be a few questions that have come in, and I've seen some in the chat as well. I can answer those if you don't throw them up. All right, first question. Love the dog there, Anna. How far in advance can you make the reservations for dining? So again, let's say you fully paid, or let's say you're a platinum or elite guest, and you've made a booking into spring of 2023. When this system goes live next week, you can start making your dining reservations now, which is pretty cool. Debbie says, do you book the Dine My Way via the Medallion? Yes, it's all done via the Medallion class app. And so we think keeping everything inside the app will just get people used to it. There's going to be some resistance from those folks who may not be as comfortable using the app at first, but it's been designed in such a way that it is really intuitive and I think pretty simple. So once you get into it, you can do everything in there to get ready for your cruise, to get ocean ready, make your dining reservations, plan your trip as much as you want to or as little as you want to. Make specialty dining reservations. I don't think I mentioned that if you have a specialty dining credit, or maybe you as a travel advisor have bought that for your clients, they can see it right in there and use it right now, so they don't have to wait and have it get credited back on board. Susan Doyle, Canadian exchange rate. Yes, we have a Canadian exchange rate. We publish that in the Travel Advisor newsletter each week. Sandra, can guests still embark early if they arrive at the port before their assigned embarkation time? Sandra, great question. So we are expecting a much more controlled embarkation experience, because we don't believe that we can have everybody showing up at 11:30 like they normally do today. We're going to have to provide guidance to say this is your boarding time, your embarkation time, and that'll be communicated via the app. And so we ask that you please respect that and show up at the time that you are designated. We appreciate your understanding in that, but we're really trying to make sure we abide by all the local rules in terms of congregation of people and so forth. Okay. Lauren says, can you get the same table wait staff each night? Yes, you can, which is really cool because, and it's up to you if you want to keep that same time. And even if you're, changing, a few minutes here or there, we're going to do our very best to give you that same wait staff, assuming that's what you would like. Okay. What will happen to buffets? Buffets are not going away. The World Fresh Marketplace at Princess, we think it's amazing. It's going to be there. We are still working through the actual guidelines. We expect much less people getting their own food unless they go up and grab like a single serve prepackaged thing to take away. Of course, the Medallion class app will be there. You can order things from the World Fresh Marketplace while sitting by the pool. So you don't have to go in there if you don't want to. But if you do want to go in and have a light meal or even a dinner, as I love to do with my boys when we're on our cruises, the staff will be there to serve you. So it's more of a service-oriented experience. Can we please have an update on the Discovery Princess will be delivered on time? Great question. As of right now, all I can tell you is that we are focused on the spring of 2022, her arrival on the West Coast, but I don't have the full details as we're still working through that with the shipyard and to clarify the actual inaugural experience and when the ship will be introduced to North America. I did have a couple other questions. I can't comment if you have a flip phone. I'm sorry. What happens to solo cruisers who want to eat with new people? Actually, the way Dine My Way works is you can actually select a dining reservation for people in your travel party or new friends you meet, or just say you want to be put at a table with other folks. So whether you've made new friends or not, the wait staff, the maitre d' will make sure you are taken care of. So do not worry about that. Let's see what other questions are coming in. Now, this is a good question, Steve. I want to throw it to you, and we're going to wrap up here because we have run late. Is the submarine included with the seaborne cruise or a special charge?
So it is we only have two things that we do charge extra for, and that is the kayaks and the submarine. The submarine will probably be a charge of about $400. So it's about a 45-minute experience. And everybody who is on board will have the opportunity to partake in that.
Yeah. And then I also got a question from Alan saying, how do you make a reservation for dinner if you have a flip phone? First of all, 1987 called. It wants its phone back. But nonetheless, for those that have flip phone, again, smartphones, it might be good to stay away from it because it's just, yeah, crazy. Anyway.
John, you have a landline, so.
I was just going to say, this is coming from the guy with the landline.
Hello? No, yeah, I got plenty of time. Go ahead. Yeah, what about that warranty? So I will say this: don't worry that you don't have once you get on the ship, the staff can take care of you. You can also go into your stateroom and use this TV that's in your stateroom to make all the dining reservations you want. You can use the public portals out in the lift lobbies and so forth, or just ask a crew member and they will take care of it for you. So don't worry, you can manage as much or as little as you want. Okay, and final question, which we started this on risk advisory and talking about vaccines. Let's end with this question that says, what are the approved vaccines for all brands? And just know that the vaccines that are approved by the FDA and the World Health Organization are the approved vaccines for sailing with us. I'm not going to list those off today, but just know if you're in the US or Canada and you're getting a vaccine, you're covered because only the WHO or FDA vaccines are being administered. But those are the guiding principles we're operating under. Steve, Michelle, thank you so much for joining here today. A lot of information. Hopefully everybody absorbed it all, and we will continue to share. We may have another webinar coming up, and I think we should do this again, the three of us, the sisters.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should.
I love it.
Great. We appreciate everybody joining in. Thanks for the kind comments. For those not making nice comments, I assume those are directed just at Steve, but we really appreciate your time today, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
All right, bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.